Well, hello and welcome to another live from this Study Coding with Me live series. We are still going through this JavaScript course on Freecodecamp, but we are quite close to finishing it. We are basically somewhere in the middle of. Let me share my screen though before I start explaining what's going on the screen. We are somewhere in the middle of the functional programming module, and after this one we're going to have in some of the future lives intermediate algorithm scripting module, then another module called JavaScript algorithm and data structure projects, and basically after this module, so we basically have two modules after we finish this one, and after these two modules is just claiming our certification. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start from where we left off last time. Last time we basically learned how to use the filter method, and now they actually ask us to kind of implement the how the filter method works on a prototype so we can better understand the filter function. So as you can see here, they basically add on the array prototype function called myFilter that would be like the should act like the filter method, so basically should do the same thing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this in here because in Visual Studio Code I like better how it looks. I'm going to zoom in a little bit, and basically what's going to happen, this function is going to be passed a callback function which tests if an element from the array, basically we can access the array that we're going to call this method on by using this, and then this function is going to be called on each element, and is going to use each element one by one, and if it returns, if this function is going to return true, then it's going to be in the array that it returns, otherwise it's not going to be. So basically what we want to do, we want to say this, which is going to be the array that this is called on, and we're going to say for each, so basically for each member, for each element of the array, and here what we're going to do, we're going to say if callback of element, which means if we call the callback with the element and we get true, so if callback of element, then what we want to do is actually I'm going to put this here after the new array is created, which is empty, and we're going to say if this returns true, then we want to say new array. So basically we add it to the filtered array, so we say new array push element, and then we return the new array, and that should do it. Alright, so let's copy this, and let's run the tests, and this works. Alright, if you have any question, do let me know in the chat and I'll try to answer them. Also, if you didn't already give a like to the live, I would really appreciate if you can give one, as YouTube will show this content to more people if there are some interactions on it. Okay, so here it says return part of an array using the slice method. The slice method returns a copy of certain elements of an array. It can take two arguments. The first gives the index of where to begin to slice. The second is the index for where to end a slice and is non-inclusive. So basically you give the first index from where you should start to cut. It actually includes that one, it actually includes that element, and then you give the end index, but it doesn't include at the end, it doesn't include the element at that index. Here it says if the arguments are not provided, the default is to start at the beginning of the array to the end, which is an easy way to make a copy of the entire array. Then it says the slice method does not mutate the original array, so it doesn't modify the original array, but returns a new one. So here it says, here's an example, and you have this array, and then you say new array equals to array slice 1, 3. So basically it starts from index 1, so it starts from here, from dog, until index 3, which index 3 is this one, but this is not included, so this is not inclusive. So basically it's going to make a copy, like a cut in a copy from 1 to 3, but not inclusive, so it's going to have dog and tiger. So here it says use the slice method in the slice array function to return part of the anim array given the provided begin slice and end slice indices. The function should return an array. So here we say return anim slice begin slice and end slice, right? Let's run the tests, and that's it. All right. Now it says remove elements from an array using slice instead of splice. A common pattern while working with array is when you want to remove items and keep the rest of the array. JavaScript offers the splice method for this, which takes arguments for the index of where to start removing item, then the number of items to remove. If the second argument is not provided, the default is to remove items through to the end. However, the splice method mutates the original array it is called on. Here's an example. So we have this, and then we say city splice from index 3, which is this, and remove 1. So it basically returns the string London, but it deletes it from the array, right? Because it returns something, but then it removes it from the original array, right? So here it says, as we saw in the last challenge, the slice method does not mutate the original array, but returns a new one which can be saved into a variable. So here it says, recall that the slice method takes two arguments for the indices to begin and end slice. The end is non-inclusive, and returns those items in a new array. So here it says, using the slice method instead of splice helps to avoid any array mutating side effects. Then they say rewrite the function non-mutating splice by using slice instead of splice. It should limit the provided cities array to a length of 3. Thank you very much for the like, much appreciated. So it says it should limit the provided cities array to a length of 3 and return a new array with only the first 3 items. Do not mutate the original array provided the function. So at the moment what they're doing is they're doing return city splice 3, and they want us to change it to slice. So let's see at the moment what it does. Well, can I console log this? So basically here it says return the splice, which is basically returns what it takes, which means it returns from index 3 to the end. Actually, what does it do? Does it, when you say splice from 3 to there, it returns that, and here it says to a length of 3 and return a new array with only the first 3 items. This is a bit weird the way they formulated, but I think is basically what we have to do is, because it says it return a new array with only the 3 items from the array. So what you want to do is return cities slice, and you slice from index 0 to index 3, which is gonna return the elements at index 0, 1, and 2. So let's run the tests, and yeah, that's what they wanted, but they formulated it a bit wrong. Hello Projval, how are you today? Alright, let's see. Then it says combine two arrays using the concat method. Concatenation means to join items end to end. JavaScript offers the concat method for both strings and array that works in the same way. For arrays, the method is called on one, then another array is provided as the argument to concat, which is added to the end of the first array. It returns a new array and does not mutate either of the original arrays. Here's an example. So if you say 1, 2, 3 concat 4, 5, 6, it basically puts the elements from the first array first and then the second array. So here it says use the concat method in the non-mutating concat function to concatenate or attach to concatenate attached to the end of original. The function should return the concatenate array. So you want to basically attach the attach array to the original one. So what we want to do is say return original, and remember this doesn't change the original one or the attached one, it just creates a new array. So we say original concat attach. All right, concat. All right, like this, yeah. Okay. Then they say add elements to the end of an array using concat instead of push. So here it says functional programming is all about creating and using non-mutating functions. The last challenge introduced the concat method as a way to combine arrays into a new one without mutating the original arrays. Compare concat to the push method. Push adds an item to the end of the same array it is called on, which mutates the array. Here's an example. So we have this, and then we say array push 4, 5, 6, and then it's basically doing that. It's pushing in there, and it's changing the R array. So here it says concat offers a way to add new items to the end of an array without any mutating side effects. So here it says change the non-mutating push function, so it uses concat to add new item to the end of original instead of push. The function should return an array. So what this does, it says return original push new item, but what you want to do is return original concat new. I think you have to put it in an array to work, or no? I don't really understand what they're doing, because this should be an array, right? So I don't really understand the reasoning. It says to add a new item to the end of the original instead of push. So wait, does this concat method actually works with an array and a number, or what are they trying to say? So let's see, what if I do 1, 2, 3, and then I say concat 4. Does this work? Huh. So basically you can actually concat an element as well, not just an array. What if I put here 5? You can give it actually more elements as well, and basically it returns something. So basically we can use concat as well by giving it elements instead of an array. We can put this either like this and it adds them, or we can put them like this and that's also gonna add them the same, which is pretty nice. I didn't know about this one. So yeah, we're doing original concat new item, and that's gonna work. All right. Okay, so here it says to use the reduce method to analyze data. There's a lot of text for this one. Array prototype reduce, or simply reduce, is the most general of all array operations in JavaScript. You can solve almost any array processing problem using the reduce method. The reduce method allows for more general forms of array processing and is possible to show that both filter and map can be derived as special applications of reduce. The reduce method iterates over each item in an array and returns a single value, example string number object array. So basically you are reducing an array to either a string, an object, or a number, or another array. This is achieved via a callback function that is called on each iteration. So it says the callback function accepts 4 arguments. By the way, we're gonna go through these things that they're saying, but I already have like a series of about 3 or 4 videos on my channel where I explain the reduce method in detail, because I think it's a pretty nice method that you can do a lot of nice things. So I explain it in detail in those videos, but we're gonna go through it through what they're saying now. It says the first argument is known as the accumulator, which is basically the thing that you're accumulating in, which gets assigned the return value of the callback function from the previous iteration. So basically, when you're returning something from the callback function, that return value from that iteration becomes the accumulator in the function for the next iteration. The second is the current element being processed, so it's basically each element of the array one by one. The third is the index of that element, and the fourth is the array upon which reduce is called. In addition to the callback function, reduce has an additional parameter which takes an initial value for the accumulator. So basically the reduce method is something like this. Let's say you have an array like this, and then you call the reduce method on it. And reduce, you can give what names you want to this. So this is gonna be basically a function, right? And here it has four arguments, which you can give them what names you want, but it makes sense to name them in a way where you know what they are. First one should be the accumulator. Then you have current, so the current element. Then you have index, which is the index of the current element, and then the original array. Now you don't always have to pass all these things. You could, but at least accumulator and current, these two are needed. These two are not always needed, right? You usually would have just accumulator and current, and then you have this, like what the function does, right? And here at the end you should have return accumulator, because it always returns the accumulator, and when it's called for each element, it's called for this element, it does something in here to the accumulator, then it returns it, and the value that the accumulator has, the value that is returned here for the accumulator, is going to be used as the value of the accumulator for the next element in this argument, right? And here, like it said, reduce has the callback function as an argument, and then it can have another argument, which is the initial value for the accumulator, so the value from which is starting. So here we can start, for example, for 0, and then if we want to do the sum, we want to use reduce to make the sum of the elements in this array. What we want to do is say accumulator equals to accumulator, whatever the value of the accumulator is, which on the first iteration is going to be 0 because it starts with 0, and then we add the current element, right? And then we're returning the accumulator, so the accumulator becomes the new value, and then we're adding again to the accumulator the new element, and so on, and we keep returning until the end. So basically, if I console log this, if I put this in a console log, should give me the sum of the numbers from 1 to 5. So yeah, so basically here I have two nodes code, run it, and as you can see we get 15, which is the sum of these numbers. 1 plus 2 is 3, plus 3 is 6, plus 4 is 10, plus 5 is 15. right? If I start this from 10, it's gonna use 10 as the first value, and this should give us 25, right? And why am I getting still 15? Let me see where the problem is. Didn't I save? Maybe I didn't save. Yeah, so we get 25. Okay, now here, because we're saying accumulator equals accumulator plus current, and then we say return accumulator, we can just say, instead of putting this here, we can just say return this, right? And this is basically going to be the new value of the accumulator, right? And because we just have in return on here, and this is an arrow function, we can get rid of the return and just do this, right? And because we start from 0, if you don't give it another argument to this reduce function, if you don't give it the 0, so usually it will be like this. Wait, what am I doing wrong here? Reduce accumulator plus current. Okay, I need another one here because there is the console log, right? So if I give it a 0, it's okay, it's gonna give me 15. But also, if I skip this, if I skip the initial value, what it's gonna do is gonna put the initial value the first element of the array, right? And because this is a sum, that's gonna work because it starts from 0 anyway, right? So we're just adding things. So this is gonna work like this. So this is how we would do the sum of an array. We would say reduce accumulator current, and we return accumulator plus current, right? If we want to multiply of all of the element, we say return accumulator multiply by current, right? Okay, let's go back to what they're saying. So here it says, see below for an example using reduce on the user's array to return the sum of all the user's ages. For simplicity, the example only uses the first and second arguments like we used in there. So it says const sum of ages equals to user reduce, and then we have the sum and the user, which is all the elements taken one by one, and then we say return sum, which is the accumulator, plus the user age, and we start from 0. We don't even need this, but it's just showing that where it's starting from, right? Okay, in another example, see how an object can be returned. So you can return an object. It doesn't have to be a number. You can return an object. In another example, see how an object can be returned containing the names of the user as properties with their ages as value. So what we want to do is basically reduce this array of objects to an object where you have each names as the property of that object and the age as the value of that name, like you can see in here, right? So what you're doing is basically going to each element and you're saying object of, the object starts from an empty object. So at the start the accumulator is an empty object, and then for each element you're saying object of user that name, which is gonna mean object of John for the first one, and we give it the user age. So basically then this object is gonna get this thing inside there, and then we return the object, and then we go to the next one, we add this one, and then we go to the next one and we add this one, and then at the end is gonna return the accumulated object, right? All right, so here it says the variable watch list holds an array of objects with information on several movies. Use reduce to find the average IMDb rating of movies directed by Christopher Nolan. Recall from prior challenges how to filter data and map over it to pull what you need. You may need to create other variables and return the average rating from getRating function. Note that the rating values are saved as strings in the object and need to be converted into numbers before they are used in any mathematical operations. So basically what they want us to do is find the average IMDb rating of all the movies directed by Christopher Nolan, right? So let's see, let's copy this name, right? And then let's see where director, so basically the director should be Christopher Nolan, right? So basically what we want to do is say get rating, then we have var average rating, and we want to change this, and we want to say this is equal to, we get the watch list, which is the array. We want to filter it so that we get movie, right? Watch list filter, we get the movie as an element, and you can go back to previous videos to see how we how the filter method is used, right? And basically we want to filter only for where the director is Christopher Nolan, so we want to say movie, and I think it's director with uppercase D, movie director is equal to this, right? So we filter for this, and then we're going to use reduce to sum the IMDb rating of all of them, and then we need to divide that sum by the length of the array, right? The array that we have at the moment. So I'm going to use reduce, and I'm going to say accumulator value, and for here I'm going to use the index and array as well, because I'm going to need this array length to divide by it, right? So what we want, well, yeah, I think this is what I'm going to do. So I'm going to say here return, and I'm going to accumulate from 0, right? I'm going to start from 0. Here I'm going to say return accumulator, because we need to return it, and as you can see at the moment it returns 0 because we haven't done anything, right? It just keeps returning 0. What we want to do is we want to say if the index, this index that we are at, is equal, and we want to say if it's the last element of the array, of this array that we're going through, if index equal to array length minus 1, then what we want to say is accumulator is equal to accumulator plus the current value. But at this moment, when we're at the end, we want to divide this by the array length, right? Else, if it's not the last one, then we'll just keep adding the value to the accumulator. We're only dividing it when we have reached the end, right? Accumulator equals to accumulator plus value. But there's one small mistake here, because the IMDb rating comes as a string. So what you want to do is here, before anything, you want to transform that to a number value. So we can say const number value, but wait, because here we're saying accumulator plus value, but actually the value is a whole object. So what we need to access is val IMDb rating. So we already made a mistake here, but anyway, we're going to change it. So we want to say const number value equals, and we want to access the IMDb rating but make it a number. So we want to say number of value dot IMDb rating, and then we want to use this number value here instead of value. Alright, so what we get at the moment is 8675, and this should work. Let me know if you have any questions about this. I know it can seem overwhelming. Alright. Hello, Shape AI. How are you? Please give a like to the live if you haven't given one already. Alright, let's go further. Now here it says use higher order functions map, filter or reduce to solve a complex problem. So they say they're gonna give us a complex problem, and they say no. Now that you have worked through a few challenges using higher order functions like map, filter and reduce, you now get to apply them to solve a more complex challenge. So here it says we have defined a function named square list. You need to complete the code for the square list function using any combination of map, filter and reduce so that it returns a new array containing only the square of only the positive integers. Decimal numbers are not integers, so they need to be integers. So basically don't have anything like point something, right? When an array of real number is passed to it. An example of an array containing real number is this, right? Your function should not use any kind of for or while loops or the for each function. So basically what we want to do is return only the squares of the positive integers. So basically they have to be positive and they have to be integers, right? So first what we want to do is use a filter. We're going to say filter element and we're going to return the element only if we're going to say if element is higher than or equal to 0. I think that's positive. I think 0 is still positive. I'm not sure about it, but also it should be integer, so it shouldn't be a floating number. So I think what we need to check for that is we want to say this and we want to say that I think math floor of element should be still equal to element. I think this is a good thing that we can, so we can say if both of these are true, then we return true, else return false. Okay, so basically now we have got from here only the positive integers, right? And then what we want to do is map to them and return, instead of those numbers we want to return the square. So we want to say number and return number squared, right? So we return the squares. So I think that's it. This wasn't that complicated. All right. So here it says sort an array alphabetically using the sort method. The sort method sorts the elements of an array according to the callback function. For example, function ascending order is basically doing return array sort function ab return a minus b. So basically you pass it a function which, and basically the sort method uses that function to basically decide how to sort. Here it says function reverse alpha of r return array sort, and this function that you pass, it says return a equals b, then it returns 0, a less than b, then it returns 1, otherwise it returns minus 1. So basically I think what this does is it's changing. What does this do? Z S L H B. I think this is basically sorting an array of letters in decreasing alphabetical orders. So here it says JavaScript default sorting method is by string Unicode point value, which may return unexpected result. Therefore, it is encouraged to provide a callback function to specify how to sort the array items. When such a callback function, normally called compare function, is supplied, the array elements are sorted according to the return value of the compare function. If compare function of AB returns a value less than 0 for two elements A and B, then A will come before B. If compare function AB returns a value greater than 0 for the two elements A and B, then B will come before A. If compare function of A and B returns a value equal to 0 for two elements A and B, then A and B will remain unchanged. So here it says use the sort method in the alphabetical order function to sort the elements of array in alphabetical order. So they use something weird here, but I think we're able to use something that I usually use when I want to order words in alphabetical order. So I think we can say return array sort, and here we're gonna pass a function. I'm gonna pass an array function with A and B, and what we want to return is A. I think it's local compare. Is it like that? Local compare of B. Let's see. Yeah, so if you look, what does local compare do? So here it says the local compare method returns a number indicating whatever a reference string comes before or after, or is the same as the given string in sort order. Right, so in a sorting order from alphabetical point of view. So this is what I do when I want to sort using the sort method words in alphabetical order. Alright, here it says, just checking that nobody said nothing, return a sorted array without changing the original array. A side effect of the sort method is that it changes the order of the elements in the original array. In other words, it mutates the array in place. One way to avoid this is to first concatenate an empty array to the one being sorted. Remember that slice and concat return a new array, then run the sort method. So here it says use the sort method in the non-mutating sort function to sort elements of an array in ascending order. The function should return a new array and not mutate the global array variable. So here we want to say return array, well, R, and here if we say sort, it's going to mutate the global array. So what we want to say is we want to say array and we concat an empty array, but we can either do this array concat a new array because it returns a new array, but we can also say array slice, this returns a new array, or you can basically get an array and spread the array into it, which is my favorite method, and then we can sort this, and we have to use, because they are numbers, we have to use A and B, and I think we return A minus B. Alright, this is it. Ask me later. Okay, so here it says split a string into an array using the split method. The split method splits a string into an array of strings. It takes an argument for the delimiter, which can be a character to use to break up the string or a regular expression. And I made a video. I think it's just a video on my channel about how to use a split with regex, which can make it like a lot more versatile than just splitting by a particular string or character. For example, if the delimiter is a space, you get an array of words, and if the delimiter is an empty string, you get an array of each character in the string. Here are two examples that split one string by spaces, then another by digits using a regular expression. So here we have a string hello world, and then we say string split by space, and we would get an array with the words hello and world like this, and by digits, where you have a string like this, and we split by a regex, which is a regex for a digit, right? So we're basically splitting by digits, but as you can see, it removes the digits and it just keeps the words. If you actually want in this one to keep the digits as well as elements, you would have to use a regex where this is a match. So basically between this and this, you have to put parentheses here, starting parentheses here, and starting end parentheses here, and that will make it a match. So it would keep it in the array as an element itself. So here it says since strings are immutable, the split method makes it easier to work with them. Here it says use the split method inside the splitify function to split string into an array of words. The function should return the array. Note that the words are not always separated by spaces and the array should not contain punctuation. So basically what we want to do is return string, and let's see, we want to split it, and we probably want to split it by a regex because we want to split by multiple different things. So we need a regex for this, so we're going to do this, and what we want to do is split it by space, which in a regex is this. Then we're gonna use the OR thing to add more things, and we want to split by this as well. And I'm not sure if they want anything else, but we'll see if they want anything else in the. Okay, so hello world, I am code. Alright, so they want these lines as well to be split by them, so we want to say another OR, and we want to add this as well. Or we can make, I think this, we can make it a character class. So we can say this and this and this. I'm not sure if this is gonna work. Do I have to skip this twice or what's going on? I'm not sure if I can do this. Yeah, I'm kind of new to regex as well. I wonder if this works. Now let's just make it like we did it before. We're just saying we want this, and then we want this, and we want this as well. What's going on here? We want to take this as well, right? Okay, so let's try this. And okay, they want us to split by that as well, so we're gonna add that as well. And what am I missing? Why is this not going correctly? Is this like space, or so I'm not sure why this is not working. Maybe they want us to use a character class, but I'm not sure if I can put. Okay, so let's see. We want to use that, we want to use this, we want to use this, and we want to use a space. Is this gonna work? So yeah, basically we use the character class where we want to say we want to split by any of the things in this character class, which is either a dot, um, how you call this, a comma, and a dash, and then any spaces, right? So basically we split by any of those. All right, here it says combine an array into a string using the join method. The join method is used to join the elements of an array together to create a string. It takes an argument for the delimiter that is used to separate the array elements in the string. So if you have an array with the elements hello world and then you join them by spaces, it's going to make a string where it's going to put a space between the two elements. So here it says use the join method among others inside the sentencify function to make a sentence from the word in the string. The function should return a string. For example, I like Star Wars would be converted to I like Star Wars. All right. So I think what they want us to do is again do the same thing before, split by all of the things like this, string split, and we want to split by all of those things again, and this, and then, well, I don't think I have to split by space because the spaces are already there, just split by these things, and then we want to join by a space, so we want to return this. Okay, let's try this. Okay, so it says may the force be with you, should return a string may the force be with you. And why would this not do it? Should I put a space here as well? But I don't know why I need to. Okay, what is this going on? Split by space and then join by space. String split by those things and then join. Why is this not working? Okay, let me console log this and see where we're going wrong. Console log. Okay, why is it not splitting this? Okay, so it's not splitting by this for some reason. Maybe I need to escape this. No, why is this not working? Should I put it first? What? Why is it not? Oh, yeah, that's the problem because I didn't use the character class. I have to put these things into a character class. I forgot about it. Well, that's weird. Okay, so basically here we have to put these things in a character class. I forgot about that. Alright, let's take this console log out and let's run the tests. Okay, that works. Okay, so here it says apply functional programming to convert strings to URL slugs. The last several challenges covered a number of useful array and string methods that follow functional programming principles. We also learned about reduce, which is a powerful method used to reduce problems to simpler forms. From computing averages to sorting, any array operation can be achieved by applying it. Recall that map and filter are special cases of reduce. So here it says, let's combine what we learned to solve a practical problem. Many management sites, CMS, have the titles of a post added to part of the URL for simple bookmarking purposes. For example, if you write a Medium post titled "Stop using reduce," it's likely the URL would have some form of the title string in it. So it would end in something like "Stop using reduce." You may have already noticed this on the Freecodecamp site. So here it says fill in the URL slug function so it converts a string title and returns the hyphenated version for the URL. You can use any of the methods covered in this section and don't use replace. Alright. Here are the requirements. The input is a string with spaces and title cased words. The output is a string with the spaces between words replaced by a hyphen. The output should be all lowercase letter. The output should not have any spaces. Okay, so I think we have to return something like this. So what we want to say is return title. Then we want to, I don't know why he's saying about all these things, because I don't think we need all of these things. We need just what we learned in the last ones, I think. So we have to split the title by spaces, split by a space, and then, well, we want to basically, yeah, I think we have to map to all the words now. So we have to use map to say element and return element elements to lowercase, because we want to make all the letters small, like lowercase. So when mapping and returning this, then we want to join by a line like this, and what we want to do is we want to say maybe something like this. I think they said concat is can also be used on strings, so I think we should be able to say something like this, this, and we want to say concat, and we concat all this. Let's see. Okay, winter is coming, should return. Okay, so they do not want these things here, so we don't need this. This is just additional, because I thought it was gonna be like this, but what we need is just this. So we split by space, we map, we make them all lowercase, and then we, but actually what we can do so that we don't have to use the map, we can just say join by space. So we can say split by space, join by the line, and then we make all the string to lowercase. We don't need the map, right? So that's it. Why is this not working? Title split by space. Okay, there's one thing. If you have a if you have a space like this here, it's gonna put a line here as well, from what I can tell. So what you want to do is, before the split, you want to do a trim, which basically takes any space from the beginning and end of the word. So let's do this. We trim it first, then we split it, and then we do all that. Why is this still not working? Okay, there's a problem here, another problem, because you can have multiple spaces between them, and that's not gonna work if you split by this. So what you want to do is split by regex, which is a s plus, which means one or more spaces, right? So let's run the test, and that works. All right, here it says use the every method to check that every element in an array meets a criteria. The every method works with arrays to check if every element passes a particular test. It returns a Boolean value true if all values meet the criteria, false if not. For example, the following code would check if every element in the number array is less than 10. So you have the array and you call the every, and you pass a function which checks if all the elements are higher than 10, and if they are, this will return true. Here it will return false because not all the elements are higher than 10. Less than 10, not higher than 10. Okay, so here it says use the every method inside the check positive function to check if every element in the array is positive. The function should return a Boolean value. So what we want to say is return array every, and we want to say for every element is higher than or equal to 0. Very simple. All right. Then it says use the sum method, which is basically kind of the opposite. The sum method checks if at least one element in the array meets a criteria. So it says works with arrays to check if any element passes a particular test. It returns a Boolean value true if any of the values meet the criteria, false if not. And I'm not gonna go through this because it's very simple. This time, instead of checking for if all of them meet the criteria, it will check if at least one of them, right? So here it says use the sum method inside the check positive function to check if any element in the array is positive. The function should return a Boolean value. So basically this should return true if at least one element is positive. So we want to say return array sum element, and then element is higher than or equal to 0. So if at least one is, then it's gonna return true. All right, I think we're one lesson away from the end of this module. So here it says introduction to coding and partial application. The parity of a function, the arity, I never heard of this term, of a function is the number of arguments it requires. Calling a function means to convert a function of n arity into n functions of arity 1. In other words, it restructures the function so it takes one argument, then returns another function that takes the next argument, and so on. So here's an example. You have function uncurried of x and y returns x plus y. So then you have function curried of x is returning function of y, which returns x plus y. So then you have const curried, which takes the x element, which then takes the y element, and it returns x plus y. So then you basically pass an argument for the first function and then an argument for the second function. Carried of 1 and 2 would return 3. This is useful in your program if you can supply all the arguments to a function at one time. You can save each function call into a variable which will hold the return function reference that takes the next arguments when it's available. Here's an example using the current function in the example above. So you have var function for y equals current of 1. So basically at this point you only have the first argument, so you get current of 1, and then when you receive the second arguments from where you're gonna receive it, then you can use this function and you call it with 2, and then you get the final result. Similarly, partial application can be described as applying a few arguments to a function at a time and returning another function that is applied to more arguments. Here's an example. So you have function impartial of x, y, z returns x plus y plus z. Then you can have var partial function, and then you say impartial bind this, and you get 1 and 2. So basically you give to this function, you tell it which where the value that this function is called with is gonna be in this function call. So you're saying this exactly here, and then the other two arguments are 1 and 2, and then when you call partial function with 10, then you're gonna get the final result. So here it says fill in the body of the add function, so it uses curring to add parameters x, y, and z. So basically what we want to do is basically return a function which gets a y, which returns another function. So basically this returns another function which takes z, and this functions returns x plus y plus z. What did I do wrong? Return function of y, return function of z. What am I doing wrong? Oh, yeah, problem is I put x here, it should be z. Alright. Why doesn't even let me? Alright. Okay, this is the end of the functional programming, and this is where we are going to stop for today. We're going to do another one soon where we're going to start the second to last module, so we're pretty close to the end. See you next time and have a good one. Bye bye.